Hello everyone and welcome to Lush and Salty Aquariums. Won't you join me for a sunset dive in the Rio Orinoco River basin of the Amazon? Obviously we're not anywhere near there. We're in my fish room in Chicago, and this is my 12-gallon partial Blackwater system, of which I recently uploaded a short and have covered extensively. But at this time during the filming, the backlight was on. The Atmos is what it's called, the Atmos light screen from UNS, and that was the only light illuminating in my fish room pretty much, and captured my attention and my fancy and brought out kind of the deeper lush tones of this aquarium without its main light on. Everything's on a timer in the fish room pretty much. There's always an exception, so I've said pretty much because there are exceptions to every rule in this fish room, sometimes by design and sometimes because I don't have a choice. But for the most part, timers are a wonderful way to make the hobby a bit more enjoyable and moreover consistent for the fish and animals you're keeping. That's how nature works. Gradually the time changes, but for creatures the sun rises and sets at the same time, changing a minute or so a day, if that. And that's what makes us all comfortable. We don't want and like or appreciate, let alone thrive, in erratic, ever-changing environments. I guess that's why climate change, at least that's definitely why, among other reasons, climate change is such a feared prospect for all living things. But right here, right now, we're looking at a group of very prosperous neon tetras. Yes, these are neon tetras. They're super fat. I'm going to just be honest, they're obese. I'm not sure I would even consider their weight healthy. It's not that I overfeed this tank, but I do have to feed a high quality, high protein, and often that means live foods, blackworms and baby brine shrimp, almost exclusively to cater to the small group of licorice gouramis that also inhabit this aquarium. Maybe we'll see one, maybe we won't. They're often easy to spot in silhouette in the back there amidst the roots. I'll look for one before the video's out. But what I was getting to, the reason why these neons are so chubby, is because they're little piggies, and when I put the baby brine shrimp in, or the blackworms, or the bug bites, they swarm it like piranha, another fish indigenous to the Amazon. And these neons have become accustomed to that super great live food, and they're all over it. But to make sure some of it makes it, I do overextend my feedings, and therefore they get too much. It's just that simple. Again, I said licorice gourami, and we're looking at one right there. This little micro predator. They are becoming a little bit easier to find in the hobby. I got these from the wet spot, and they usually have one or two strains. Varieties might be a more likable, appropriate word, of licorice gourami. A gorgeous animal, and the males and females are often distinct and different, but one is not more or less beautiful than the other. They're just really cool in different ways. This looks like a female with the stripes and the lighter tones, whereas the male of this variety is almost black with blue fins, especially when courting or in an aggressive mode. Maybe look at that fascinating shot. It almost looks like when you watch those videos on YouTube where the guy is snorkeling. So at the bottom here we have cryptparva and botanicals atop sand and UNS substrate. You can see how delineated the layers are. The cryptparva is doing magnificent. It is like breaking between all the leaves and the substrate exactly as I wished it would, and slowly spreading to other parts of the tank. There's another group of it here. And a big fat neon. You see what I mean? Just a round, almost corpulent, like an overweight voyeur chubbily walking to put on his robe and commence court. Crazy metaphor, but that's what I thought of. Just a big fat gentleman moseying, still proud, still very much happy to be alive, not suffering that I can see from that weight, but I mean, this guy right there almost looks like a silver dollar, one of those, like a hatchet fish. So big and so protruding is the belly. But there is not dropsy or extended scales or any other indication of poor health. My fear is if I cut back the food, they'll eat the lion's share, which I know they will do. There's another, I think, nope, that's that big fat. I was gonna say I thought that was a licorice gourami, but it's actually the big ass neon. If I cut back on the food, I'm afraid the licorice gourami won't get what he and she needs. There's his little territory there. Usually I see the other male with that one. I think they're a bonded pair, if that's possible in the species. I believe I started with 5, and I think I have 3 or 4. I've never really pulled apart all this intense growth, all those roots, moved anything around or changed this aquascape, so I haven't been able to get an accurate count because the neons are so prevalent and boisterous relative to the licorice gouramis. I don't really know how many might be back behind this bogwood in the tangle of pothos roots and Ballasinaria and Brazilian pennywort, which are, and then of course this is a dwarf tiger lotus. The reason why this isn't a full-on Blackwater tank, although it sure looks like it now, thanks to the Atmos, the UNS Atmos light screen, is because I wanted all these plants, and generally speaking, in a true Blackwater system, there's not enough light and there's not enough nutrients in the water to support plant growth of any consequence. So a true biotope would just be leaf litter, botanicals, and wood with sand. That's generally how people do it. And I love that, but I didn't want to do that. I'm too much of a plant nerd. So I call it a partial Blackwater system. There's also some Morse code tetras, a bit of an obscure tetra, and it has, when there's full on light, it has these dotted gold, gold dots along its side that resemble a Morse code sort of rat-tat-tat pattern, and also and I say this every time, if I get a good focus, you see the dorsal and the ventral fins, they're flickering, and they flicker like an old-time Morse code tapper. I don't know if without the top light you actually got to witness that. I got the Morse code Tetras when I got the Licorice gouramis, and those were the two species I had in here, which would have been more appropriate in a sense that size-wise and scale-wise, behavior-wise. But sitting over in my chair about 8 feet away, I never saw any fish. I just didn't see a lot of fish. And so, by the way, those were two pygmy coreodoras. I have those in here as well. What a wonderful fish for a nano aquarium. I'm almost certain they've spawned in here, but the babies haven't made it. But anyway, I got the neons, really small, teeny little juveniles, because I wanted to see something when I looked over from my chair. Well, I have not lost a single one. That was well over a year ago, and you see, and you can tell from my narrative that not only have they survived, they've thrived, maybe at the expense of the other creatures in this tank in terms of dominating, and also maybe at the expense of their own ultimate well-being. There's not a lot on overweight fish, but it is real, it is possible, and I might have a group of them here. They're not displaying any, symptoms like when like what we're accustomed to in our own kind, in people. I don't see gasping, shortness of breath, poor behavior, fin rot, bad color. Quite the contrary. They're just fat. I don't know what else to say. They're just chubby. Whoop. Oh my gosh, what a joy it was to share this aquarium with you at this time, with this lighting. I do so much appreciate our time together. I know that sounds corny, but it's true. God, I love this shot, this what I'm calling the snorkel shot. There's an Amano shrimp, I think. No, that's a Neocaridina really species. I don't know, I can't tell if it's blue or red. There's a variety of shrimp in here, those that the micro predator. I know I have put some baby shrimp in here to pick along for the licorice gouramis to maybe discover and have a wonderful treat. And the shrimp, some grow up, and I'm happy to have them. There's one going back in silhouette. You see that? Boom, disappeared into the bogwood. I didn't mention the anubias. It's an anchoring plant transitioning the bogwood to that cryptparva. It's doing super well. You will see anubias even in blackwater biotopes, and what's great is there's zero algae on those leaves because there's not too much light breaking through the surface, and because the water has a bit of a tea stain from the tannins. I'm sure there are anubias that don't like those conditions, but trust me, many of the common ones really, really do, and this aquarium is living proof. Happy that the lotus is doing well. The light right at the top is pretty strong. It just doesn't make it through the top, and I don't have it at its full strength, but it's by far not a simple clip-on light. This is Chihiro's, what they call the king of value. So that's a Chinese term that they coined, that maybe they thought us capitalistic Americans would appreciate, but king of value is their kind of entry price light. It gives you quality LED from Chihiro's, but at a much more attractive price point. And it's missing some of the color from a full spectrum. It's primarily white, and I didn't care about full spectrum. That may or may not have been a genius move, or a dumb move, I should say. It could be a moot point, because as long as I keep this tank as a partial Blackwater system, I won't require full strength lighting. And so far, with the lack of algae and the really, really good plant growth and all the other indicators, the water parameters, I mean, everything is rock solid here. Look at how the iPhone tries to reconcile with that light screen in the back. If you have any questions or want to learn more about this tank, by all means hit me up. Okay, folks, like I say, always keep your hands in the tank, albeit carefully, and ciao for now.